Great to have you back once again here on Yankees Hot Stove. So things can get hot around second base. And second base has been a hot topic lately with regard to instant replay and slides. So, Jack, let's start there. In terms of the instant replay, we've seen guys pop off the bag, managers challenge, and guys get called out. And some people are saying maybe that's not in the official spirit of what replay is supposed to be about.
And I agree with those people, Bob. First of all, I love instant replay. I love that they're doing that. I want to get the calls right. But I am bothered by the scenarios that you just talked about, where a guy is clearly safe, and then because the infielder keeps the glove on him, as we're seeing right here, and he might take his foot off the base by just a half an inch or an eighth of an inch, he's suddenly called out. I don't think anyone believes that's what this rule was supposed to be about. But here's your problem. Joe Torre addressed this at the GM meetings in Boca Raton. We're going to look at it. We're going to look into it. I don't see how you fix it. I don't know what you do. If a guy touches the base, he automatically calls timeout. I mean, sometimes it's a pop-up. So I think they're going to have a tough time remedying this.
It feels like the play is still in motion. How could you call timeout?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the side that, you know what, keep your foot on the base, right? I mean, and the infielders have made a nice adjustment. They're applying the tag. They are holding it on the base runner because they know this can happen. It's a game of adjustments. Now the base runners have to make an adjustment with their slides. I don't know what it is. I never ran fast enough to come off a bag. I would always end up on top of it. But now you're seeing that base runners have to figure this out. And I don't know if it's poor mechanics, if there's not enough instruction on how to slide properly, but base runners have to make an adjustment.
Well, we see so many guys slide head first. Brett Gardner among them slides. And, I mean, he's going all the way body across the bag, just trying to keep his foot on the bag. Somehow that's got to change. If, Jack, the infielders have made the adjustment to keep that tag on, why don't base runners do the same thing?
John is 100% right. I mean, think about in football, if there's a fumble, that ball becomes precious. Everyone's after that ball. I think a base runner has to treat the base like that. If you're not on the base, then you're in jeopardy of possibly being tagged out. Yes, it violates the spirit of the rule. Yes, it looks a little silly. You go back to the division series between the Astros and the Royals. Gore steals third base. He's easily in there, but his foot comes off. Did Valbuena maybe nudge him a little bit? He gets called out because of the replay. I hated seeing that, but I understood why it was called. It's incumbent upon Gore or whoever the base runner is. That base is precious. Don't give it up.
I love the fact that you attributed it to a fumbled football and how important that is. And now every base, whether it's second, third, or home, is obviously going to be very important, that you have to keep contact with second and third base on your slides. I think it's just going to become one of those things that base runners are going to make an adjustment and say, we got to take care of the details here and make sure we're executing properly.
Well, think about it, and you sort of alluded to this. There is an art to sliding which has been lost, but there are a lot of changes being made in the game. How about guys, when the shift is on, going the opposite way? We talk about Teixeira and McCann trying to do that all the time. I mean, if you're making changes at the plate and there's specialization in pitchers and the art of the game is always changing, why shouldn't this just follow suit?
No doubt about it. Somebody does something to you on the field, your strategy has to be that you have a counter. I forget which infielder it was. It might have been Drew. We had an interview this year, post-game, where you and I are sitting on the set, and the infielder on the Yankees said, we've been taught, keep the glove on the base runner. Well, you know what? We should hear some base runners next year saying, we've been taught, keep your foot on the bag. Do not lose contact with the base.
You know, and I wonder, I keep going back to this. I probably sound like an old player, retired 10 years, but in the minor leagues, you would learn how to slide. You would go through it during spring training. I don't know if those things are happening anymore. I think players are rushed to the big leagues a little bit quicker because they're more talented. But the finer points of the game, base running and sliding, maybe take a hit because of it.
If you can get a guy that steals 30 bases, if he keeps his foot on the bag, he might give you 40.
Right.
You know, something like that. All right, let's move on to the slides at second base that have become an issue. They certainly did at the end of the regular season and in the postseason. Chase Utley was the postseason. This is Gung for the Pirates. And you see the takeout slide there, and he was done for the season there. And that brought up the issue, Flash. Should there be changes made at second base like there were sliding at home? And your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm going to go back to the slides at home. And last year I went through this. I did not agree with it. You know, I enjoyed the contact at home plate. I enjoyed being able to take away home plate to try to save a run for my team. This is a little bit different at second base. Obviously, we don't want players who are going to get hurt. But again, I go back to it. If you don't want to get hurt, get out of the way. And maybe you should learn how to get out of the way in the minor leagues. I don't want to see any shortstops or second basemen break their legs. But there is a way to get out of the way and make sure that you're going to be be healthy.
All right, so that conversation came up in a white-hot spotlight in the postseason when Chase Utley went into Ruben Tejada. And a lot of people said, why is Tejada trying to get this double play here, Jack?
Yeah, this was tough to watch for me because Murphy doesn't help him out. Tejada doesn't help himself out. All that being said, I still think Utley went out of his way to make contact with the infielder, and somebody who's a hard-nosed baseball player said, yeah, that's exactly what he should do. But I think he clearly, there's a step when you slow that video down where he's going towards the base, and then he clearly veers towards Tejada. I have a problem with that. I don't like that play. And I actually like what they were doing in the Arizona Fall League this year, where they were trying the idea of base runners having to slide straight into the base, not going after the fielder.
You know, I disagree with Jack on this one. And, you know, Utley went after Tejada, and that was his job in that situation. You see Utley, he has his hand on second base, or it would have made contact. So legally, it's okay. The problem is he slid so late. And that's the issue that you have with Utley. But his job, force contact, make sure a double play is not turned. My issue goes back to Tejada. That's probably not a ball that you should be turning a double play or thinking about it. Take your out like a first baseman, step off the bag, avoid contact, and then nobody's really talking about it.
I like how you slipped in there. The problem is he slid late. He slid very late. He slid very late. And, I mean, he takes the guy out. And I like hard-nosed baseball. I like guys who play the game hard. But that instance is going to cause a rule change. I really do believe that, because Torrey was quoted as saying, listen, we don't want to see our players getting carted off the field. That's not what baseball is about. And I just think Utley, both late and sort of submarining the player, I had a problem with that.
I think we can agree that it was late. But the one thing I'll keep going to, if Tejada just got off the bag and took the one out, I think the problem is you're thinking I can turn a double play, which with the feed from Murphy is not going to happen. So I think if Tejada learned maybe in the minor leagues, again, I keep going back to this, take the out, get off the base, and stay in the game.
But if you're saying govern it in a certain way here, Jack, how do you change Utley's mindset of making that slide? It's almost like, sort of like, I guess you'd have to punish him after the fact. He might still make that slide, and the player might still get injured.
Well, the umpire then might call interference, and it would be a double play. There were some people who thought that interference should have been called on that play. It's a murky, muddy area, and I'm kind of flip-flopping here, because when we talked about the collisions at home, I was in John's corner. I said, no, contact at the plate is something you should have. But the way that play unfolded, and Tejada just sort of being a sitting duck out there, which he created on his own with the way that he caught the ball, I just think it's going to cause some changes to be made in that rule.
One other thing, you mentioned the Arizona Fall League, the slide straight into the bag. See, the problem I'd have with that is if the throw to second base was on the inside part of the bag, that's where they're taking it. I would want to slide to the outside, much like some players flash sliding into home will just tap the plate with their hand now.
Sliding is an art, you know, and if you can get an advantage with a fielder going to one side, you're going to take advantage and go to the other side. As long as a base runner is going to make contact with that bag, I don't see a problem with it. Obviously, sliding late has become a big issue, but as long as you're in the general direction of second base or third base or home plate, shouldn't be an issue.